St. John's definitely has a character that you won't find anywhere else in Canada. This character is interesting, at least to me, because it's not just what you see on the surface that makes it stand out. It's the stories behind some of the things that we see every day, like things that catch our attention on their face, but are, to use an apt YouTube comparison, kind of like just the thumbnails to a deeper story. Like Cabot Tower. It's the crown jewel of St. John's, always watching over the city. It looks ancient and seems like it might have stood on top of Signal Hill forever, but it hasn't. Do you know when it was built? Do you know what the state of the city was at that time? I want to be clear, I absolutely love Cabot Tower. I literally have it tattooed on my bicep. I love Signal Hill, and Cabot Tower just makes me proud. But it probably shouldn't be there. It opened in 1900. Any thoughts about how the city was doing in 1900? If you don't know, let's just say things weren't going so well in St. John's. More on that in just a minute. Buildings like Cabot Tower don't just pop up out of the ground. So for pretty much the entire period of time it would have taken to pitch the idea, prepare a construction plan, and then actually build the thing, I gotta think there had to have been better uses of public funds. I want to reiterate, 125 years later, I'm proud to have that big castle on the hill there today. But seriously, it probably shouldn't be there. What about the other buildings of Old St. John's? The ones down in the city below Signal Hill? Have you ever actually noticed the date plaques on some of the buildings around Water Street? You'll see that with just a few exceptions, the buildings that line the oldest street in North America are no older than some of the buildings you'll find in notably younger Canadian cities like Edmonton or Vancouver. I kind of skirted around why this is just a second ago, but here's why. St. John's was almost completely destroyed by fire in 1892. Contributing to this was the fact that the Great Fire of 1892, while vicious, wasn't the first big fire. There was another Great Fire in 1846 that wiped out a huge portion of the city, and that one followed what was known as the Great Fire of 1819. The 1819 blaze was actually like a final boss after a bunch of bad fires between 1816 and 1818. So it's not really a mystery as to why the old buildings downtown aren't really that old. It's just something to think about from time to time. Now it makes for a pretty interesting trot around downtown to see some of the buildings that did survive all of these fires. Some buildings like the Basilica, Devon Row on Duckworth Street, or Anderson House up on Signal Hill Road, they stood far enough away from the flames to remain safe. But there are others, not many, but a few, that lay right in the path of the flames and somehow withstood them. There are dozens of monuments around Water Street, Duckworth Street, Military Road, up on the Battery, even around some of the lanes. Have you ever stopped to see what or who any of them are actually dedicated to? There's one that I find particularly interesting. It's the one in Cavendish Square. Did you even know there's a place called Cavendish Square in downtown St. John's? Today, it's that little island of land between the Newfoundland Hotel, or the Sheraton, and Bannerman Brewery. There's some parking spots around what's there now, and not much else. But it used to be a fairly important square for the city back in the day. There's a monument there dedicated to a woman named Ethel Dickinson. Ethel was a volunteer nurse, and she gave up her life a little over 100 years ago tending to the sick during the last big pandemic that hit the world before COVID. I thought there might be a wave of awareness focused on this real hero from our city's past during COVID, but aside from a few posts on social media and maybe a story or two in the news, there really wasn't much. I still don't think many people know who Ethel Dickinson was, what she did, that there's a beautiful monument dedicated to her that stands in a fairly busy corner of St. John's to this very day. The monument's pretty overgrown with trees today, but it's definitely there. And what about Fred? Do you know who Fred is? In high school, my friend Caitlin used to bring me to the all-ages shows at the Loft and the LSPU Hall. It was at the hall where this man's presence was felt. I don't remember him being very big, but his personality sure was.
Fred was a pillar in the arts community, and I met him when I was a teenager. I'd come down to the LSPU Hall, which I'm going to take you up these stairs to have a quick look at the place. They used to have all-ages shows for kind of, alternative rock, punk rock, and just basically local musicians that formed a scene that hasn't really been replicated since. Going back now to my high school days in the mid-90s, I haven't seen anything quite like it kind of happen again. So here's the LSPU Hall. There's other places, other venues where they would have shows as well, but this was the main place. Like, any big shows happened here. There was the Loft. There was Cornerstone actually used to have some all-ages shows, and bands like Potbelly and Bung, and later Potmaster, Potato Bug, Liz Band, lots of others, Chevy, Ched. Good to Go was my favorite, even though the singer kind of hated me. The drummer was a childhood friend of mine, but there was lots of really great music, and Fred was kind of the glue behind the scene.
The hall shows were my touch point with him as a teenager, but he organized much more than just the all-ages shows at the LSPU Hall. Music NL does amazing work today for local artists, and I don't want to take anything away from what they do, but that indie scene of the 90s was special, and Fred's role in that moment of time was enormous.
This mural has been around for a few years, and it actually replaced another one that was around for like 25 years. It's really pretty impressive that it lasts for that long, and everybody walks by this now for like literally 30 years, and people don't really know who Fred is. So just want to tell you a little bit about who the man is, who he was.
Fred passed away in 1995. It was a swimming accident. He was only 23 years old, if I'm not mistaken, but he did so much for the Newfoundland music scene. His memory has been protected and celebrated by the people who remember him and knew him well for 30 years now. That's much longer than he was even with us here on Earth. Man, this city is cool.